Welcome back. Israel's military says it shot down several drones in a fresh wave of Iranian attacks. New video out of Israel shows a building on fire in Holon near Tel Aviv. Officials say it was hit by shrapnel after a missile was intercepted. No injuries were reported there. Now, this comes after Israel targeted Iran's largest nuclear research complex overnight. The facility in Isfahan has been struck by Israel before. An Iranian official on state media said there were no threats of hazardous materials leaking out, but warned people to avoid the area. Israel's strikes have not only taken out top Iranian leaders, they've also caused civilian deaths. CNN's Katie Polglass breaks down the human toll at the locations where top Iranian officials were targeted.
Hitting the heart of Tehran. Israel's campaign expands every day. CNN has been analysing these Israeli strikes using satellite imagery, video and publicly available data. We found some were extraordinarily precise, taking out key regime members in their own apartments, while others destroyed whole buildings, killing and injuring civilians. This video shows an apartment building hit by missiles in Tehran on June 13th. We geolocated it to this residential street in the centre of the city. We then cross-referenced the location with a list of addresses of key political and military figures from a public database leaked by activists. The address matched that of a nuclear scientist, Ahmed Reza Zolfagari. Iran confirmed the scientist's death, but aftermath footage shows the human toll could be far greater than one person. A whole building turned to rubble. That same night, this residential building collapsed after a strike. Though it's unclear if it was Israel's intended target or collateral damage, the building is here, in Chamran, an upmarket Tehran neighbourhood. And just 1,000 feet away is a military complex, multiple buildings, all belonging to Iran's Ministry of Defence, and still standing. Once again, aftermath footage indicates the likelihood of a heavy civilian toll. Medical staff reported at least 40 people died in this attack, including as many as 15 children. By the second day of its assault, Israel claimed it killed over 20 members of Iran's security apparatus, including senior commanders. Over the following days, they hit more key institutions, like this oil depot on the outskirts of town, and the Iranian state broadcaster, under fire while live on air. But throughout, the civilian toll grows. These strikes, which we geolocated here to Orkideh, a wealthy neighbourhood in central Tehran, killed a young Iranian poet, along with her entire family. The strike was likely targeting Abdulhamid Manuchahar, the head of nuclear engineering at a university, who, according to Iranian media, lived in the building. As rescue workers dug through the rubble of his home, his university confirmed he had been killed. Israel's recent strikes on Iran follow their operations in Lebanon and Gaza that also took out key military and political leaders. Yahya Sinwar, the leader of Hamas, pictured here in Gaza in this now infamous drone video, seconds before his assassination. But the civilian toll, once again, prompts questions around Israel's proportionality and decision-making on striking targets in such densely populated areas. Katie Polglass, CNN, London.
As Iran and Israel continue their volley of attacks, retired U.S. Army Major General Mark McCulley explained his take on the conflict. Take a listen.
The fundamental obligations on the part of military planners is to reduce collateral damage. And that's one of the benefits, so to speak, of our smart weapon systems, meaning we have the ability now with the type of cruise missiles and even drones to pinpoint an individual. That individual is eliminated and nothing else in the close proximity is harmed. In this case, with the fuselage of attacks on both sides, the probability of hitting civilians has increased multidimensionally. And so we're beginning to see that this war has a direct impact on those who are living, civilians, not members of the military, in both Iran and Israel. And can we stop it? No, the only way you stop it is at some point Either we have a negotiated settlement or one side raises their hands, and to use a term brought forth by President Trump, this sort of unconditional surrender, at least as it pertains to the weapons of mass destruction, the nuclear capabilities of Iran. Israel is beginning to come up short in terms of the sophisticated missile systems, especially on the air defense side. There are conversations now between Israel and the United States, and those conversations relate to we need additional force packages in order to defend our cities against the onslaught of Iranian missiles. This is why, if you look at how this conflict could be waged, not only for the next 2 weeks, and hopefully people come to their senses, and there's no comment as to the probability of that, but if this is waged over the course of time, a couple of months, a year, a couple of years, then all of a sudden you're going to have Iran moving forward, continually shooting whatever it remains its inventory, and trying to pursue what we call an attack approach, meaning you kill with 1,000 cuts, meaning you're not able to take out Israel instantaneously. But if you prolong this agony for years and years, even the people in Israel will reach that point of complete frustration and urge their own government to move quickly to negotiations. We could establish no-fly zones. So you could basically have a no-fly zone at the north of Iran and a no-fly zone toward the south. Anything that penetrates that would in fact be removed by either U.S. or NATO aircraft, assuming that there is some form of agreement. That would be effective. Of course, if you get this super GBU-57, the great bunker bomb, as I talked earlier, while we look at this as a game changer, I'm just suggesting that that weapon system has not yet been used in actual combat. So we don't know if that thing will reach 400 feet. It might, and then we can all stand up, or the Israelis can stand up and start cheering that they have accomplished their objectives. If they don't, and there's residue of nuclear material, enriched material, way down in the bowels of Fordow, then this war could go on forever.
Well, Russian President Vladimir Putin says the group of oil producers known as OPEC Plus is increasing their output due to the conflict between Israel and Iran, but they're doing it gradually. Iran is the third largest oil producer in OPEC, and analysts fear that hostilities could disrupt supply and increase prices. Mr. Putin told the St. Petersburg Economic Forum on Friday that the conflict has driven up oil prices, but not enough for OPEC to intervene.
We see that the current situation in the Middle East related to the conflict between Iran and Israel has led to a certain increase in prices. Well, this growth, in the opinion of our experts, is not significant. Well, what it is now, $75 per barrel, and it was $65. It rose by $10 and is stabilized at this level.
Well, Israel and Iran are trading deadly missile strikes. We'll look at how ordinary people are responding to the dangers after the break. Welcome back. I'm Linda Kincaid. You're watching CNN Newsroom. Good to have you with us. Israel and Iran have been trading blows in new military strikes as their conflict enters its second week. An Iranian official says the latest round of Israeli strikes targeted Iran's nuclear research complex in Isfahan. The video shows the Iranian city of Qom. Iranian state media say a strike on a residential building there killed 2 people, injuring 4 others. The city is close to Iran's Fordow fuel enrichment plant. Iran is denying Israel's claim that it's been forced to cut back on missile launches because it's dwindling stock. The Iranian official tells CNN that Iran's using more advanced precision missiles and doesn't need to fire as many of them. CNN's Nick Robertson was in Haifa, northern Israel, as an air raid warning sounded. This is what he saw.
And we're going underground now.
We're going underground
into this bunker.
It's a bomb shelter, bunker.
It's Haifa's war room. It's very quiet in here right now. Almost 24 hours since the last missile strike.
We're trying to let the people at least to go to their houses, to buy something and to be a little with the families.
We don't know it then, but they'll soon be running back here. Haifa's missile response and resiliency in their hands. Back out on the streets, people enjoying the lull until the sirens go off. People are running for the shelters. The sirens have just gone off. It's the middle of the afternoon here, and everyone's going to try and take shelter. Iranian missiles have killed 3 people here in the last week. We're just going to follow the people where they're going, to a shelter. It's a desperate rush. So we've followed everyone, and this is where we've come to. It seems like it's an underground car park underneath a shopping mall. Life on hold. People with babies and pets waiting, scouring their phones for news of what's happening above ground. A week of missile strikes taking its toll.
It's my first time here.
Really? Why now?
I just couldn't stay at home anymore. I was too scared.
And with good reason. While we were underground, a missile struck about a mile away. Just arriving on the site less than an hour after the blast, you can see here water pouring out, the damaged cars here as well. This is a scene of the aftermath of a strike here, and then looking at the damage, it's big. Just turning the camera over here, you can see here the building has been blasted, rubble everywhere. Already the rescue teams coordinated by the War Room on site. Sniffer dogs to locate those trapped in the rubble. Drones to scour the debris. Then the rescue teams looking for unexploded missiles. The city's mayor, who runs the War Room, one of the first officials to arrive, whereas diplomacy not working fast enough. President Trump waiting 2 weeks to make a decision. What do you think about that?
It's too much.
Why?
Because we have no time. You see what's going in the middle time.
There's more destruction.
They have to sit now and negotiate and design a treaty. It's not a big deal, and do it.
Israel's foreign minister next on the scene. For him, a deal with Iran nowhere near in sight. And what's your understanding of the diplomatic talks between the Iranian foreign minister and the European foreign ministers in Geneva? Are they making progress? What is your assessment of what's happening there?
Well, frankly, I was always skeptical with regard to diplomatic talks with the Iranians because they are misleading. And even until now, we hadn't heard anything from them which hints they want to change direction.
By morning, the roads here will be open again. The path to lasting peace still blocked. Nick Robertson, CNN, Haifa, Israel.
Earlier, CNN spoke to Gershon Baskin, a former hostage negotiator, about the possibility of a diplomatic solution to the Iran-Israel conflict. Take a listen.
There are no winners here. It's clear that the Iranians are losing more than the Israelis are, but this is not a win for Israel when the entire population of Israel is locked down in bomb shelters 1 or 2 or 3 times a day, and billions of dollars of damage has been done to infrastructure, to buildings, to homes, to a research center, to the Weizmann Institute, to a hospital. So I think it is appropriate for the president to use diplomacy. He said he's going to end wars to try and get the parties back to the table. We don't know what a deal would look like, but it is not unreasonable to expect Iran to demand to have some enrichment capabilities, at least to 3.5% for civil nuclear energy. That would be a reasonable request. It would have to include what was agreed to in the original deal done by President Obama, that enriched uranium beyond the 3.5% be removed from Iran. And that's part of a deal that the Iranians accepted in the past, and they could probably accept once again. Israel has done significant damage to the Iranian military, to the Revolutionary Guards, to the scientists who run the nuclear program. But at the end of the day, it is the enrichment facility which determines if Iran has enough nuclear material to produce a bomb. Israel probably can do significant damage, but not totally destroy it. And only the United States has the capability of doing that, I think. Israel has not an unlimited supply of defense rockets for protecting the skies of Israel. And we've seen how Iranian missiles have penetrated the Israeli defense capabilities. According to what's been in the Israeli media, the amount of defensive missiles being shot by Israel is at a faster rate than Israel's ability to produce more missiles or to get them from other sources like the United States. So there's a calculation that needs to be done by Israel on how long they can carry out this operation. Additionally, there's a question, we don't know what Iran has up its sleeve and how many weapons, ballistic missiles they have and their ability to shoot. I think, though, that every day that goes by is a risk to innocent people who are getting killed on both sides of this conflict, probably more in Iran than in Israel. And there's a question of, do we need to continue to carry out this war, or can we move it to the diplomatic path that was started by the United States before the war began? The sixth round of talks were supposed to take place in Oman before Israel launched its attack against Iran.
Well, demonstrators marched in Beirut's southern suburbs and other parts of Lebanon Friday to show their support for Iran in its conflict with Israel. Many chanted slogans or waved the flags of Iran, Lebanon, and the Iranian-backed group Hezbollah. Israel's defense minister warned Hezbollah against getting involved in the conflict on Friday. The group has made no explicit pledge to join the fighting. But on Thursday, Hezbollah's leader said it will act as it sees fit against what he called brutal Israeli-American aggression against Iran. CNN's Frederick Plyton is the first Western journalist to enter Iran since the latest conflict began. He spoke to an official with the Iranian presidency about the escalating tensions with Israel and what happens if the U.S. gets directly involved.
I think that Israeli thought that they can be win, for example, in 2 or 3 days. But now you see that the control is with Iran. And in every attack to Iran will be there will some missiles to Israel against. And as I know, Iran announced that until this attack has continued, the missiles will continue.
What about President Trump? President Trump says he wants to give diplomacy a chance. What diplomacy do you think can happen now?
The United States President Trump can easily stop the war by only one telephone to Israel. But I don't know why he didn't do that. We believe to all part of diplomacy. So I think if Mr. Trump ordered to Netanyahu to stop the attack, the diplomacy can be started again easily.
Do you think Iran is willing to speak directly to the Trump administration now?
Directly or indirectly is not important. The important is that Iran believe to civilian dialogue.
The U.S. has talked about using a gigantic bomb called a bunker buster against the installation in Fordo. What would happen if America bombed Iranian nuclear sites?
If America involved to the war, Iran predicted all choices, and we are not hand-backed, and there are so many options. And as I know, all these options are on the tables.
So you think that American military bases, for instance, would be under threat, that Iran would use its militias in the region?
There are so many options. Not only this, it is only one option. There are so many options, and all options has been planned very carefully.
Do you think that Iran would be willing to give up enrichment and, for instance, join a consortium or something?
No. Iran announced that so many times. The enrichment, we will do the enrichment, and we don't accept the stopment of enrichment. Maybe the enrichment can be lower, but we don't stop it anymore.
Well, after months in custody over an immigration fight, pro-Palestinian activist Mahmoud Khalil was finally freed from an ICE detention center. We'll have the details next. Welcome back. A Palestinian activist who has been at the center of a long-running deportation fight is now free. You may remember the arrest of student activist Mahmoud Khalil on Columbia's university's campus back in March. On Friday, Khalil was released on bail from an immigration detention center in Louisiana. CNN's Mark Morales has the latest.
Palestinian activist Mahmoud Khalil was released from ICE custody. This now ends an over 100-day saga for Khalil, who was taken into ICE custody outside of his apartment near Columbia University. Now, lawyers representing both Khalil and the federal government had to come to an agreement for his release. Part of that agreement includes Khalil giving up his passport. He is getting a certified copy of that passport back. He's also getting a copy of his green card. He's limited to travel to only a handful of states. That include New York, New Jersey, Louisiana. He's not allowed to travel internationally, and this all stems from a judge ruling that Khalil was both not a danger to anybody in the community and also not a flight risk. The judge was also commenting about the duration of time that Khalil was in ICE custody, mentioning that it was highly unusual to continue to detain Khalil because he was not considered a danger or a flight risk. The federal government tried to push back, and with their lawyers arguing that this could open the door to what they call the usage of magic words, where if anybody wanted to get out of any sort of situation, they could use the First Amendment as a shield in order to protect themselves from any sort of enforcement action. But the judge pushed back, saying that Khalil has made it very clear that he protested before he was taken into custody. He plans on protesting now after that he's released, and at least in Khalil's case, it's not magic words. Mark Morales, CNN, New York.
U.S. President Donald Trump says negotiations with Harvard University could soon result in a deal. In a post on social media, Mr. Trump said the school had, quote, acted extremely appropriately, unquote. Well, after a round of talks with the university, however, sources say there's no final agreement yet. It comes as a federal judge blocked the Trump administration from revoking Harvard's ability to host international students while legal challenges continue. The administration targeted the school earlier this year over anti-Semitism allegations on campus. As ICE raids spark fear and protests around Los Angeles and the country, there are mixed reports about an incident at the Dodgers Stadium on Thursday. The LA Dodgers say ICE arrived and requested access to the team's parking lot. The federal government has a different version of how that interaction unfolded. CNN's Josh Campbell has more.
There are still conflicting accounts about what exactly occurred on Thursday outside the LA Dodgers baseball stadium in Los Angeles. We do know that a group of federal agents were seen outside the stadium. A group of protesters then arrived, and then members of the Los Angeles Police Department were brought in to provide separation between those two groups. Now, here's what the LA Dodgers baseball team claimed in a social media post. They said that this morning, ICE agents came to Dodger Stadium and requested permission to access the parking lots. They were denied entry to the grounds by the organization. They said that Thursday night's game would go on to be played as scheduled. Now, ICE, U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement, came out very quickly denying that that was them. They said in a social media post, false, we were never there. Now, the Department of Homeland Security also came out with a statement saying, quote, this had nothing to do with the Dodgers. Customs and Border Protection vehicles were in the stadium parking lot very briefly, unrelated to any operation or enforcement. Now, there are questions for DHS after that statement. First, as we look at some of the images of those agents, for those of us who have been covering these various immigration raids around the Los Angeles area the past few weeks, that team seen on video looks very similar in makeup to some of the immigration arrest teams. You have a group of agents that are in unmarked vehicles with vans that are often used to transport people who are arrested, many of those agents wearing masks. Now, CNN did hear from a community member who claimed that this person was at a Home Depot home improvement store on Thursday and actually followed a group of agents who had conducted a raid there to this location at Dodger Stadium. This person said that they actually asked one of the Border Patrol officers there, what are you doing? That person allegedly said, we are processing people that we arrested. We're also learning from the Los Angeles Times that they have obtained photos indicating it appears 2 vehicles at least that were at that Home Depot store were also at the location outside Dodger Stadium. stadium. That information coming to them from a community member. The identification of those vehicles was made by comparing license plates. So again, a lot of questions for DHS. Their statement indicated that those agents outside the stadium weren't involved in any type of operation. So we're waiting for additional information. Josh Campbell, CNN, Los Angeles.
U.S. Vice President J.D. Vance was in Los Angeles Friday defending the administration's use of the National Guard in response to the protests against immigration raids by ICE. It comes after the Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals allowed a pause on a lower court ruling that President Trump should give up control of thousands of troops that had been federalized in L.A. The vice president tried to say state and local officials weren't doing their jobs.
If you enforce your own laws and if you protect federal law enforcement, we're not going to send in the National Guard because it's unnecessary. But if you let violent rioters burn great American cities to the ground, then of course we're going to send federal law enforcement in to protect the people the president was elected to protect.
Vance seemed to take a swipe at California Democratic Senator Alex Padilla, who was forcibly removed from a news conference held by Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem last week. Vance called Padilla Jose instead of Alex, although he served alongside him in the U.S. Senate. The vice president's spokesperson responded by saying he must have mixed up two people who have broken the law.